First, I'm going to set the table, so to speak. First of all, let me begin with this. How many of you know that everyone around the world was interested in these 4 blood moons that I discovered, talked about? A lot of people wrote about it, and a lot of people said things that I never said, and people were saying that I was saying that. But what I've always said, and I still very much hold to, is these were signs in the heavens warning mankind of something that was coming soon, all right? Now, let me show you this. The moon's orbit around the Earth is elliptical, okay? It's like it's egg-shaped, so to speak. When the moon, let me go to my little diagram right here. Okay, do you see the moon right here? Okay, there's the moon. Its orbit is elliptical, going around. Now, sometimes when it goes around, it's not always the same amount of distance. It might be like this the next time. So sometimes it's close, sometimes it's far away. When the Earth is at, or the moon is at its furthest point from Earth, it's called the apogee. It's a long ways away. When it's at its closest point to Earth, it's called perigee. Okay, everyone got that? Okay. Now, whenever you see the sun, the Earth, and the moon in a straight line, it becomes a great Scrabble word. Syzygy. Okay? Now, but if you go back and look here, you know, the moon is over here. Here's the sun, we're saying, right in here, glowing this way. The moon is here, the Earth is here. It's not in syzygy. It's not in direct alignment. You know, when the moon is in direct alignment between the Earth and the sun, we get an eclipse, right? Okay. Now, we are about to see a record-breaking super moon. It's the biggest in nearly 70 years. Now, the moon looks real big if it's seen just over the horizon. If it's real high in the sky, it doesn't look like a big super moon because it's so high in the sky. So the best time to see a super moon and looks really big is if you're up when it just crests the horizon. Now, how many of you know the number 70 is very significant? Well, here's a news article. Well, first, let me tell you this. Normally, scientifically, you only get like 1 super moon every year in a couple of months. It so happens this year we have 3 super moons in a row. There's one in October, there's one in November, and there's one in December. But the one in November is the super duper moon. Okay? What is meant by a super moon? A supermoon is when it is a full moon, okay, and it's at its closest point to Earth. If it's a full moon and it's at apogee, if it's far away, that doesn't make as much of a difference if it's at perigee. If it's at its closest point to Earth and it's a full moon, now it looks really big because it's closer, right? Okay. We have 3 full moons in a row that all appear at apogee. But this one in November is special. Okay, what do we find? First off, it's the same night we have Ari Abramowitz. Now, supposedly, because we're going on daylight savings time, according to science data, the sunset is going to be here in Seattle about 4:30 in the afternoon, and the moon rises at 5:18. So here in Seattle, if it's not cloudy, that's a big if, you'll be able to take a picture of this super moon coming up over the horizon an hour before we meet with Ari Abramowitz. Okay, now here's a newspaper article, I believe. It says we're about to see a record-breaking supermoon, the biggest, like I said, in nearly how many years? It's the closest full moon in this century. Now look at this next paragraph. If you only see one astronomical event this year, make it the November supermoon, when the moon will be the closest to its Earth since it's been, since January, what year? 1948. Wow. 70 years, right before Israel becomes a nation. Here we have these 3 super moons in a row. All right, the biggest one is just in a week and a half. On Monday night, November 14th. It says here at the bottom that it won't happen again until November of 2034. Okay? So I just wanted to point out that you have 3 supermoons in a row, with the biggest one happening this next week, right before the flood takes place, biblically. Okay. Now here's just I am not endorsing any presidential candidate here, but I'm just stating a fact. The inauguration ceremony for president is on January 20th of 2017. It is every year, with the celebration to follow. The next president, whoever that may be, their first full day in office will be the following day, January 21st, 2017. Everyone follow me? It just so happens. On June 14th, 2016, Donald Trump turned 70 years old. So on January 14th, Donald Trump will be 70 years and 7 months old and 7 days on the inauguration day. Now, I just think that's fact. This is a fact. Donald Trump will be 70 years old, 7 months and 7 days old, his first day in office. Now, I'm not endorsing a candidate. I am just telling you that this is fascinating. This kind of stuff fascinates me. Now, here's the next thing. The number 7, as you know, is very significant. In Hebrew, the 7th letter is zayin, and it means a weapon. Okay? It even looks like a weapon. You can see the little white zayin within the handle of the axe. So here's what's fascinating. Here, the word zamar, the first letter of the word to sing is zamar in Psalms 9:11. The zayin also represents to prune, Leviticus 25:3. Now this year in Hebrew is 5777. 777. Okay? Now, what you realize, what Hebrew letter is the 7th letter? Zayin. 777. The first digit is 5. Okay? And the 5 means, hey, to behold. So here, this year means to behold, weapon, weapon, weapon. Warfare, warfare, warfare. The last time, 70 years ago, we had this big supermoon was before Israel went to war. In 1948, 70 years ago. Now, what's fascinating, there's an anomaly in Hebrew, as many of you that have been around know, that there are letters that are big, there are letters that are small, letters that are upside down and backwards that do not get translated into English. Well, one of the places where the zayin is really big, the only time it appears really big, is in Malachi 4 and 5, and it's the word zikron or zikru here, to remember. It's the word to remember. And what are we supposed to remember? The Torah of Moses. Okay, and this has to do with, behold, I send you Elijah the prophet. Now, the word zayin refers to warfare, as I said, or it's a weapon. What this is telling us, the greatest weapon we have in the last days is to remember the Torah of Moses. This is why the devil doesn't want us to have anything to do with it, because in the times we're about to enter, it is our greatest weapon that we have. There's more. Remember the 7 spirits of God. Okay, Isaiah 11:2 talks about the 7 spirits of God. What do we know from 2 Corinthians 10:4? The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God, through the pulling down of strongholds, right? We're to have involved in spiritual warfare, correct? So one of the things I think we need to realize, with the fact that this coming year that we're in right now is 5777, which all represent zayins and weapons and weapons and weapons, it also means to sing, it also means to prune. What God is telling us, this is the year that God is going to do a lot of pruning in the church. It's pruning time. But our warfare is to sing the Psalms. Okay, we need to be concentrating and remembering the Torah of Moses and praising him. Now, in case you didn't know, in your Torah scrolls and the like, there's these little toggins that are over certain letters. Okay? So these are the, how many of you have ever seen those in Torah scrolls? What the sages say is each one of those are actually little Zions are weapons, spiritual weapons. Okay? Now, how many of you know Psalms 91? How many of you know it's a warfare psalm? Is Psalms 91 a warfare psalm? You guys know this, right? Nowhere in the entire psalm is there a letter Zion. And so people would think, well, wait a minute. If that is a warfare psalm, why are there no Zions in it? Guess what? Do you see on, I don't know if you could really see on this, those little toggans? See the little toggans? Here, let me use my little color here. Do you see how the little three, there we go. Do you see this one has the toggans on it? You can see this one has it on it, this one has it on it, this one has it on it, this one, this one, this one. Okay, this is verse 12 of Psalm 91, and it has 7 letters, a total of 23 Zions on top doing spiritual warfare. In Psalms 91, it has more of these letters with the toggans implying a spiritual battle that is going on in the heavenlies. And so, oh, yeah, let me go back. So basically, when we recite Psalms 91, the Zions function as spiritual weapons. Okay, we have 777 time of this year I believe is going to be the year of warfare. Not only could be physical warfare, again the last time this moon happened was right before Israel became a nation and went to war. So what we need to do is protect ourselves, right? Physically, spiritually. And how many of you sometimes get fed up with the devil and you just want to crush him? I think the church has been battered, and I think it's time for us to get mad. I think it's time to get mad, and we need to realize we need to do spiritual warfare. And because of all these Zions that is in Psalm 91, like I said, whenever you recite it, these Zions are functioning as spiritual weapons that you are fighting with. So with that said, let's stand and let's pray Psalms 91, and pray it every day. I'm telling you, pray Psalm 91 every day. This is going to be your spiritual warfare for protection this year. So together, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his feathers. Under his wings you will take refuge. His faithfulness is your shield and rampart. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked, because you have made the Lord your refuge and the Most High your dwelling place. No evil shall happen to you, neither shall any plague come near your dwelling. For he will put his angels in charge of you to guard you in all your ways. They will bear you up in their hands so that you won't dash your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the young lion and the serpent underfoot. Because he has set his love on me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. I will satisfy him with long life and show him my Yeshua. Amen.
Dave Dobbs here, aka David Field from A Book Laughing Gas. It's 5th of June 2016 today, and I want to give you my most up-to-date timeline of Nibiru, because there's a lot of stuff coming out. There's something coming out on TV on the 7th of June, Tuesday the 7th of June, which is a Channel 4 thing, which is a look at my brother and myself's kind of our lifestyle, and in it I talk a lot about Nibiru, and so I think a lot of people are going to be curious about where I stand on the subject of Nibiru since making that film, because another sighting has come into place. And so it's really been quite an exciting discovery of seeing how this thing unfolds and what this thing is doing and all its movements. And I haven't got it right. I'm not correct in this estimate. It's what I understand so far, and that's all I've ever been given or giving in the information, is what I'm guessing up to a certain point. And I've just been able to isolate up until now. I've only been able to isolate a 200-day cycle in Nibiru, going around whatever this second thing is. So let me show you the cycle and take you around so you're completely up to date. Okay, so let's just run the whole loop from 2010 right up to 2016, where I'm assuming this kind of exits the central hub of our solar system. So we're just looking at the general movement of Nemesis coming over the top of the Sun, with this thing circling around it, coming rapidly up to 2016 now. And we're going to go again and explore this a little bit more deeply to understand this date and this point right here, why we arrive at this point, all these different sightings that we've seen along the way to arrive at this point. Okay, so let's run 2010 through and pause it right there. And so what you're actually seeing there is Nemesis coming up behind the Sun. We're basically at the end of 2010, coming into 2011. Nemesis coming up behind the Sun. Okay then, so we go into 2011, and March 2011. Now I don't know if the angle of this is exactly like this. It could easily be like this, which means in March 2011, whatever that big thing is, our second sun would be very close to Earth at that stage. Might possibly explain Fukushima. Okay, so let's continue round in 2011 to 5th of August. And we see this sighting here. Okay, so seeming as this was the first real sighting that I've had of what I think is Nibiru circling around Nemesis, and we only see it in the highest point. So if we take the 5th of August 2011, if we take that as the first sighting, and I've worked out this 200-day cycle, so just see if this cycle works. Take 5th of August 2011, add 200 days and times it by 10. Okay, so let's keep going to the next sighting, which is on the 2nd of February 2012. Now, it's very worth noting here, because both these sightings, the first one on the 5th of August and this second one on the 2nd of February 2012, the following year, were both listed as possible sightings of Comet Ellen. So we were expecting that to fly by. We were told that's going to be a big thing in our sky, and this shows up. If it's on the 200-day cycle, we'd be expecting it on Tuesday the 21st of February 2012, which means on a 200-day cycle we'd be 19 days out. So let's keep going to the next point on our timeline, which is the 8th of September 2012. So it's worth noting there we have no witness flyby whatsoever on that date, so we're missing one at that point. So let's keep going to the 14th February 2013 and take a look at this piece of footage, which is also very interesting.
So weird, man. That flock of birds, that'd make a cool picture. See, they look like they're moving now, but it's taken them so long to go that far. They should have been out of our frame of reference like minutes ago, like 20 minutes ago or something.
No,
I mean, they're moving so freaking slow. It's so weird, man. Did you take that picture?
Look at the birds.
The birds. Ooh, get it with the birds.
And this comes at a very interesting time.
As a reference.
So, on our 200-day prediction cycle, we'd be expecting the 27th of March 2013, but it came on 14th February 2013. And that means basically it's 42 days out. So it arrived 42 days earlier than the scheduled 200-day time. Now that could have happened for multiple reasons, but we were all expecting Comet Ison at that stage. It actually turned up on Valentine's Day, 14th of February, and you know what came before the day before that? The big Russian meteorite. I think it was on the 13th of February 2013. Okay, so let's keep going round, and we come to the next sighting, which is on the 14th of October 2000.
Okay, here it is again. I'm using night mode now, and it's just moving very slowly towards the eastern sky with a mist around it the whole time. A mist that is circling. The mist is like, hard to describe, elliptical around it. Heading into the east now. The mist follows it the whole way. It's silent. Fairly bright. At first I thought it was the moon. Size-wise, maybe the size of maybe quarter moon. The amazing thing is the mist is just moves with it the whole way. The ocean below. Still moving. Constant speed. It's disappeared now.
Okay, so on a 200-day cycle that we've been looking at, that would have been due on the 13th of October 2013. It came 14th of October 2013. So we were a day out. But what was interesting is the perspective. Let me just give you a fast forward of it here. What's interesting is this sense of something coming towards us with the tail behind it, and we're getting this amazing view. And for this reason, I've got a funny feeling that our cycle of Nemesis going over the top and coming around the sun is a little bit more like this. Okay, so let's keep going around now to 1st of May 2014. And we'll just make a note at that point to say that there was no witness sighting that I could find on that day in our 200-day cycle. So let's keep going. Which means we come to the 23rd of November 2014 to this sighting over Canada. It's an incredible sighting. we would have actually been expecting in our 200-day cycle for it to be on Monday the 17th of November 2014, which means basically we were 6 days out, which is a distinct pattern that's starting to show here. So let's keep going now to the next sighting, which was on 8th of June 2015. So this was seen by Vicky Acklin on the 8th of June 2015, just after sunset, literally following the sun down. We would have been expecting the 5th of June 2015. So that's 3 days out. So we're really starting to see this pattern now. Okay, so let's keep going now to the next sighting, which was my own sighting on the 28th of August 2015, where I was with my girlfriend at the time, Dana Day, and she pointed up, we were up in the Pyrenees, and she pointed up to me and said, "Dave, what's that?" And I turned around and I looked and I was just like, "What is that?" You know, and up to that point, I'd only ever seen this whole. I'd seen Nibiru in a crazy dream that told me this was what the fuss was all about, and then to go up to the Pyrenees and suddenly see this sighting, and begin the calculations of actually trying to find, realizing that there really was something up there, and starting to assemble this whole timeline, which I'm giving to you now. And of course, this posting, which came out on Last Messages a month later, which was very similar to what we saw, is just a lot bigger. And of course, that led up to the big sighting on the 22nd of December 2015 that I'd made a prediction in the previous video, where my truck had burst into flames 3 hours after I'd posted the video. And so you can imagine that was pretty mad, because I'd gone up to the mountains and discovered this Nibiru nemesis, made this crazy video, and then the truck had literally caught fire directly after, and it was because of the truck catching fire that caused a lot of attention. That really put me on the radar a lot more. I thought it was really losing everything, but actually put me on the radar a lot more in my whole story, made my story a lot more public. And then the video went on to get nearly 100,000 hits, which was when Channel 4 or Love Productions got in contact with me soon after that, and it all started getting quite curious, and I was seen as really quite a madman, until of course we come round in the cycle to the next point, which is the 22nd of December, and we have these two sightings. So this is an amazing shot. It was either on the 19th or the 20th of December 2015, 2 days before our 200-day window. And you know, I wondered what the tail was made of, and you know what I'm thinking now is, because the way it orbits around this thing but gets very close to the sun each time it does a cycle, I'm of a mind that the surface is actually getting vaporized by the heat of our sun as it's flying on through. I don't think this is ice, I don't think this is a comet, I think this is a planet, and the surface is literally leaving a trail of everything that's coming from this. That is the vapor trail. And then this 4 days later.
Holy moly, that's no freaking airplane. December 24th, 2015. Central Indiana, this is Becky Lewis. Oh my freaking God. Are you kidding me? Let me tell you, that is no freaking airplane. That's in the southeast, where I always get the red glow. Holy God. Shit, I can't even hold it still. Please, excuse my language. Oh my gosh. I am just tripping out. What the frick? Oh my freaking gosh. Friends, it is going to go behind that stuff and I won't be able to see it anymore. Oh my gosh.
And of course, here's where we've had the big sighting that's changed everything. This is on the 28th of March 2016. Now this was a day before I made my, or a day after I made my last video saying that we were coming to the 100-day point in the 200-day cycle. So we were basically 100 days. We were right in between the 22nd of December 2015 and the 11th of July 2016. So Becky Lewis filmed this on that day, and this is filmed at sunset, so it looks like it's heading in the same direction, except that note that she's filming this at sunset, not sunrise. So you've got a picture that she's looking out at the same kind of thing, but she's upside down from where she was at sunrise when she first filmed it on the 24th of December 2015, 100 days before. So you're getting the reverse thing. So what this actually means is we're seeing Nibiru and another planet that's obviously orbiting Nemesis. We're seeing these planets for the first time on the far side of their cycle, which means it's passed clean through the ecliptic, because we haven't been able to see these because they've been too close to the sun, and suddenly on this side they're not close to the sun anymore. So it means it's dropped through the southern hemisphere of our solar system and is heading out from whence it came. It's absolutely clear evidence. We've been waiting for that 100-day appearance at some point throughout this cycle. We know unless it's just going to continue to orbit our sun, but if it begins an exit out, then we understand that it's finally come through to the southern hemisphere of our solar system. Note that there's two things that are two comets, asteroids, whatever you want to call them. To me, they're just two planets orbiting Nemesis, Nibiru and something else. And we saw it in, what was it, February 2012. And we're seeing it again here in 2016. So I'm just assuming that we're getting to learn about another orbit around Nemesis that only shows itself periodically. We've definitely got the 200-day orbit of whatever that is, but we're getting something else there as well that's also coming up every occasionally. But it's a very clear, they're both obviously clearly orbiting the same thing, and they're both coming to view only rarely, but Nibiru has a distinct 200-day orbit, whatever that is Nibiru. Okay, and pretty much hereafter, you know, we're in prediction now, aren't we? We come to July the 11th, which is the next highest point in the cycle that we've understood it, but we're starting to see a big change because of our previous sighting where we've seen Nibiru plunge through the southern aspect of our solar system. We've learnt so much more about its position in that moment that, you know, everything I did with Channel 4, we hadn't had that sighting yet, so it was still unclear. Had we missed it, or had it happened? It's happened, it's come through. So now we can only predict that this is the final big passing point. I mean, I don't truly know the angle, the trajectory. It could be that it's more like this, and which could potentially give it a later time. You know, we're talking days and weeks, more than months here, a difference. But at this point, we've got a juncture around about December, January. It could be earlier, you know. I truly do not know its position. I'm desperately trying to calculate it on a very limited amount of sightings and information. I built this whole flash player. You know, what to do with the information that I've had. No one's really been able to understand me. I'm just completely doing this on my own. I live in a truck. I'm trying to put this information together. I've just lost everything in a fire. I'm trying to make enough money just to sort of like get all this stuff. So I'm building a house while I'm doing this. I'm trying to work out how best to do this. So I'm thinking, you know, because I've had to try and find some work to make some money and everything else like that. So to try and put all this information together, I thought how best to do it. And I thought best to learn how to use Flash and to try and compress all this information into some functional pathway that everyone can understand. And this is the best I can do. And you know, the crazy thing is that all this information has come in whilst I'm giving this crazy message about, which is the reason I wrote my book Laughing Gas, which was that Britain would face a choice of whether we choose to stay in Europe or cut our anchors at this time. And, you know, you might think that David Cameron is pro-Europe, but I don't believe that's the case. I believe he's orchestrated this. He was the one who set up, who brought about the European referendum in the first place. Then you've got Tony Blair, you know, representing sort of like Europe at the moment, while the Chilcot case is going on, which is disputing whether the Iraq war was legitimate. Not that Tony Blair can be prosecuted in this, because he's got immunity from this from the very start. So you've got this person that's representing Europe that we all absolutely loathe. We've got all these characters representing Europe at the moment. You know, Tony Blair was going to be the president of Europe, but was he? You know, in Europe it was an absolute joke. But Rupert Murdoch and all the tabloid papers are making us feel as if we absolutely loathe Europe at the moment, as if we want out. And this is a big part of the whole political play that's happening as a result of what's coming in here. This is much bigger than you're realising. There's a lot of people truly understand that this thing's coming in and are gearing up for it, and breaking us away from Europe is a very dangerous thing right now, because you break away from all forms of human rights if you do this right now. We head into a situation where we really are on our own, and we know that it's to do this because we are in fear of refugees coming into our country, when we know that these refugees are in many cases fleeing the very bombs that we've actually supplied, and a lot of conflict that we've exacerbated. We know the best solution to this is not to close our borders, but to keep our borders open, but to stop supplying weapons and stop creating wars. You know, we can look and say, did Europe do this? Did Europe do all the crimes that Tony Blair did? Did Europe do all the crimes that David Cameron did? What I consider crimes, you know, invading Libya. I think that was wrong. Just like I thought Tony Blair invading Iraq was wrong. Did Europe do those things? Was that Europe to blame? You know, you've got to ask yourself: did Europe do it? Are you being fooled here? Because guys, I'm not going to be at Glastonbury this year. You know, number one, I've been invited to go along and what have you, and get involved in the Gorilla Bar and what have you, which is a big part of what I've done for many years. But I'm not going to be doing the House of Commons because I'm not really welcome to do that. You know, I'm pretty mad at the moment, and soon to be the maddest man in this country. But I cannot contribute to a massive show that's going to be a massive distraction to this EU vote, because I see what they're doing. They're trying to distract you away from it, repulse you away from Europe. And Europe is what you won after the Second World War, after all the lobbying. That's what you finally got, a proportionally run electoral system. And all I can ask you is, if you believe in your heart it is an undemocratic process, can I ask you, hand on your heart, did you vote in that, what you call a non-democratic process? Because if you didn't vote, then I can only tell you that what you call was a non-democratic process was simply a non-democratic process for you. Europe didn't do this, guys. Tony Blair, our horrible government, David Cameron, you know, these are all, you know, you can't blame Europe for this. You're being fooled. You're being fooled. Don't do it, guys, because you don't want to break from Europe when this thing is coming in. You just don't want to do that. It's called karma displacement, where you blame something else. It's a scapegoat. You don't want to make this mistake. Guys, I'm not going to go to Glastonbury. I'm going to vote, and then I'm going to get out of the country, because I've got a funny feeling you're all going to do what you normally do. You're not going to vote, and then you're going to blame your apathy, or you're going to blame the whole system that is really your apathy. You know, 66% of the population didn't vote in the last European election, and it was taken over by the very people that are telling you it's such a terrible thing. Took over the European Commission, tried to drive us into TTIP, and then you blame Europe, but it's actually the non-voters that had complete power. It's a proportionally run system. Guys, you're being duped. You know, don't let your apathy take over here. Don't let this big show, Glastonbury, be a massive distraction. Make sure you vote. Make sure you do what you've got to do. You know, because if you lose Europe, you lose. You truly lose all power of choice, which means you lose your sovereignty. And that's what this is all about. Because if you're not sovereign when this thing comes in, you are in a very vulnerable place. We are in a very vulnerable place. So I'm going to vote by post myself, and I'm not going to. I don't even want to be in this country at the point of that election, in case you decide to vote out, or just do the worst thing possible and sit on the fence and don't vote at all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for a bit of a rant, but loving you and leaving you.
Well, we don't get up till late because we're retired. At 9 o'clock I heard a knock on the door. It was a chap from next door. He was out watering his tomato plants, and he said, "Do you want the good news or the bad news?" I said,
"The good news is you got a swimming pool?"
"Yeah," and he come out and got a hole in the ground, you know.
Oh my goodness. It's hard to explain, you know. A hole in the backyard. And as we've been out here watching it all morning with our neighbours, it's got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think, when's it going to stop?
What it is old mine workings. We've identified the fact that there's a shaft put in here many, many years ago, and we've been in contact with the mines department. They're sending a team up here.
Summer, and there can't actually be snow somewhere in the United States. Can there? Yes, there can. Mauna Kea Observatory, that's over in Hawaii, of course, and as if it's not crazy enough that we have snow somewhere in the United States, how about the fact that...
extraordinary, Becky, because the weather woes never seem to end in this country for weeks, even months. People in this country have been really just praying for one thing, and that is for the monsoons to arrive, because after 2 years of drought, their farmland has been desecrated. There's been this heat wave that's been sweeping across the country, killing hundreds of people. And now it's the monsoons that are killing people. As you mentioned, 90 people killed just in a matter of 24 hours, mainly in this one state of Bihar. Most of the people who died were farmers, because this is a time as the monsoons arrive when farmers are out planting.
Don't think you'll be disappointed with this. Not a spot on lens, not a spider. There's no legs with this. And they're on 4 cameras at the same time. And now we can see that it stayed in there for 1 hour. And then it bounces back. Again, it is in a orbit around Nibiru that looks appear to be coming and going. So it's going above and below the horizon as this thing is coming at us and away from us as it approaches us and then retreats as it goes around Nemesis. Next, I'm going to show you, please pay attention to the time here. This is the second at the same time. No, this is over Italy, and now we've got Switzerland at the same time. We've got the same object. And let me do the time lapse on this one. Yes. Look how big it's getting. You can start to make out the plasma tail. And the camera setting here looks like 400 ISO. Not quite visible with the naked eye. Look at that. That thing's just getting bigger. And you can almost make out the redness of this thing. Oh my gosh. I've never seen this thing so big. It's getting close. Wow. We continue running the time lapse here, and then it disappears, and it reappears again. Again, it's the shadow. It's still facing the northwest. The actual planet is in the north southeast.
What you see here, everybody, is a thing called SunCalc. And what it does, what this program does, is it shows you where the sunrise and the sunset should be relative to your position. So an example here, this is where I am right now, where this red dot is. This is where I'm located. And basically it's saying that the sunset should happen at this, or the sunrise should happen on the yellow line, and the sunset should happen on this red line. Okay? Now, here is the important thing that I want to bring up right away this morning. The North Star, first of all, was off by 3 to 5 degrees, as confirmed by about 30 subscribers over the weekend. So anybody that knows where the North Star should be based on fixed points on the ground, like me, my story was I go out and I've been checking the North Star's position for 3 years. It has not changed for 3 years, okay? It stays in the same place winter, spring, summer, and fall. It's always in the same place, okay? The way you can find the North Star is you take the 2 ends of the Big Dipper and draw a line. So our position, fixed position relative to the North Star right now is off by 3 to 5 degrees to the west, Wayne. Or to the east.
To the east.
Yes, in my observation, and I have a solid one, and then I've gotten confirmation from several different people. So what does this mean? Why is Steve so freaked out about the North Star? The reason Steve is freaked out about the North Star is it's the one fixed point that we all can, everybody in the Earth, can validate the North Star being in a position if they have 2 fixed points on the Earth. Okay? I have now enough information to tell you from astrophysicists, astronomers, and people that have given us feedback at WSO, they all tell me that we're correct, Wayne. That the North Star has moved 3 to 5 degrees to the east.
The implications of this, Steve, is, well, it's very disturbing.
Yes. The second point I wanted to bring up, and that's what the SunCalc thing is for, is to say that you see that red line, Wayne, that points off at about rough. This is a rough 45 or just off 45-degree angle here. See that?
I see it, Steve.
From sunrise to sunset. So it is normal for us to see the sun setting in the northwest, and it's normal for us to see it rising in the northeast. First of all, that's not unusual for this time of year, you guys, okay? What is unusual, though, and if you can you see my little hand?
Yes.
When I looked at the sunset for the last 2 nights, the sunset has been here, or my hand is. About 22 degrees, Wayne.
Which, by the way, Steve, as you know, when you called me on Saturday, and I immediately went in and checked my compasses, I registered and recorded the same anomaly, and here in the Denver area, we were off by about 22 to 27 degrees to the northwest, and it didn't change. In fact, Steve, I posted on my YouTube channel a recording of where I actually filmed the needle of the compass actually oscillating back and forth. And that was Saturday.
Yeah, and by the way, and I won't bore everybody with the data, because it is pretty boring data, but that has been confirmed by several as well that did, after we talked on Saturday, I reached out to a couple of the other subscribers, and they all confirmed that they were also having the same magnetic anomaly.
I actually know a pilot friend who told us yesterday that he's a private pilot, that he can no longer rely on his compass. I said, well, how do you get from point A to point B? He says that they use a gyro software that is more directly linked to GPS as opposed to trying to follow magnetic north.
Yeah, let me, having been an ex-avionics guy, I can give you a little insight into that. There's a thing called a gyroscopic internal navigation system that, yeah. So those systems don't even require GPS, by the way, Wayne.
Well, thank you. See, I'm a novice. I ride in them. I don't drive them.
Right. No, that's okay. It's a very strange thing that I'm an expert in it because the Air Force made me one.
Good.
So we used to navigate with our primary navigation before GPS came online was a thing called PAC-AN. The civilian world has a similar thing, and basically those are fixed points on the Earth that transmit signals that basically are waypoints, okay, across the country. So you can navigate as a commercial military, or as a military pilot, you can navigate by PAC-AN, you can navigate by compass, you can navigate with GPS, and then internal navigation. And then the last thing is called internal navigation system, which is a gyroscopic device that uses the Earth itself as its waypoint. But doesn't rely on celestial observations or anything like that. It just knows where you are relative to fixed.
Hi. So this is Solar System Scope, and we can see this is the actual time and planet where we're at right now with our universe. I'd like to show you a couple things where we're at and where these objects actually are. As I said before, so if you click on this little Earth, click on here, and then we can see the different views. And most of these were over Italy and Germany. And we can see when we click on the scope here, when I said that we were looking at the shadows to the northwest, that would have been right about here. And at this time, so everything I'm doing is all happened within 30 minutes. It is 6:40 Pacific time. So I'll leave a link in the description because it's happening now. And so the southeast is where this whole thing's going as it settles down, I think. Just about in here somewhere. It's probably, again, this is our horizon. This is our Earth's ecliptic plane. Through the plasma field, which is going to stop the Earth, pole shift. The rich people are going to hide in their cities, which a lot of Christians believe that this is going to be a six-seal judgment, and I'm one of them. And how can I stay calm? Because the world is not falling apart. Everything is falling into place, just the way God told you it was. So I wanted to show you one other planetary alignment that I think is important. And, you know, I'm just looking at the elections, predictive programming, Neptune, the signs. I look at Bible prophecies where I get these alignments. And one alignment that I find very interesting is the Sun, Moon, Earth, Neptune in the Aquarius on August 31st. I've heard this date before, this alignment with Neptune, because it's a water planet, like in the days of Noah. I think they had an ancient flood. When the water planet is in alignment with Aquarius, this is like a time clock.
People were confirmed dead and 13 others remain missing after heavy rain caused flash floods and landslides in East China's Jiangxi province, South China's Hunan, Guizhou, Guangdong provinces, and Guangxi Autonomous Region. According to the local government, as of 6 p.m. on Wednesday, floods had left 3 people dead in Jiangxi. So far, 21,000 people in the province have been relocated, and another 10,000 people are in dire need of assistance. In Hunan, continuous rain resulted in swollen rivers, landslides, and mud rock flows. The Provincial Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters said on Wednesday that 3 people died in Hengshan County. Meanwhile, 4 others were reported missing. About 530 houses collapsed and nearly 12,000 people were evacuated. In Guangxi, 1 person was killed when a house collapsed in torrential rain. 2 were swept away by floods, while another was buried by a landslide. The rain and ensuing disasters also destroyed over 700 houses, ruined more than 20,000 hectares of crops, and 4...
We begin in Ethiopia, where the death toll from a landslide at a rubbish dump in the capital has risen to more than 60, and there are fears it may still go up. Rescue officials are still searching for dozens of bodies trapped under the kosher landfill. CGTN's Girum Challa has this update from Addis Ababa.
Dozens of makeshift homes are buried under the mountain of garbage behind me. People have been dumping their rubbish here for decades. It's believed around 150 people were here when the landslide took place on Saturday night. Dozens of people are buried under tons of waste, as you can see behind me there. People had been making a living by picking through the rubbish dump for useful items. Some had even made permanent homes for themselves around here. It's believed children are among the dead. Search and rescue operations continue here, but rescue workers face a tough task. Bulldozers have to carefully remove the rubbish over there. The heavy machinery could cause further slides as well. For now, they operate in the hope of finding survivors.
Tornado is touching down in southwest Florida. This happened overnight, and this was the scene in Punta Gorda, where an EF1 tornado touched down on Aspen Road East. The storm going through one family's yard, destroying their barn, sending chunks of metal flying, even cutting their horses loose.
A lot of memories of this barn. Had it ever since I was 13. Now it's gone.
Went out with him, and the other horses were loose, running around, and it's very dark.
Well, the storm also flipping the family's truck over on its head. All the family's animals are expected to be okay, though one duck was lost. The family says they're working to clean up the mess and rebuild.
China's National Observatory has raised its orange alert for frozen roads in the country's western Tibet autonomous region. A snowstorm and frigid temperatures have led to road and highway closures. A blizzard swept the Shikaze, Ali, and Shannan areas on Friday and Saturday. Snow drifts were 30 to 50 centimeters deep in the urban areas of several counties in Shikaze. The power supply in downtown Jilong was also temporarily cut down. Local authorities are clearing the roads, so they also distributed food and livestock feed in advance to help villagers graze for this snowstorm.
Maurice Christine, good evening. It is low tide here, but high water on the Great South Bay, where streets flooded and folks were forced to stay inside. Cars caught in salt water, a big problem. The rainy, wintry mix melted, and even several hours after noon's high tide here on Suffolk's South Shore, streets in low-lying areas were impassable.
All eyes are on that massive storm. Take a live look at Wrigley Field in Chicago. The snow starting to come down right now. The roads messy there this morning. They're bracing for up to half a foot of snow today.
Highway havoc in the Midwest, a late winter storm slamming millions from Iowa to Minnesota.
Awful. I didn't expect it to get this bad. It's intense. So crazy.
Plummeting temperatures, freezing freeways, sending cars sliding off the road and into each other. The treacherous conditions causing this 24-car pileup outside of Minneapolis. Wind and waves from Lake Ontario, along with freezing temperatures, engulf this New York house in ice. Surprisingly, this isn't out of the ordinary. Delays in the Twin Cities as airlines scrambled to de-ice planes stuck on the tarmac. A frigid blast blowing across the region overnight, dumping close to 10 inches of snow from the Dakotas to Iowa. Another 24 inches expected in some areas by Wednesday. But merciless sub-freezing temperatures, disastrous near Detroit. 65,000 people in the area still without power. And officials now say carbon monoxide poisoning from generators have left 2 people dead. In this northern Detroit home, a mother and her 2 young children hospitalized. This morning, across the Northeast, 60 million residents are bracing for the winter wallop as it barrels.
Now to Peru and those tragic mudslides, the death toll rising there following intense rains that have left thousands homeless, but some heroic rescues giving many hope. Here's ABC's Marcy Gonzalez.
In the fast-moving, muddy water and piles of dangerous debris, a woman almost washed away. As she tries to free herself, her hair seemingly gets stuck before she finally pulls herself to safety. One of many lives narrowly spared from Peru's raging flooding and mudslides that officials say have killed more than 70 people so far this year and left more than 70,000 people homeless. Tonight, as intense downpours overwhelm towns and send rivers pouring over their banks, desperate rescues are underway. Near the normally dry capital city of Lima, dozens of people crowd onto rooftops above washed-out streets. Zip lines being used to bring families and pets over fast-rising water. Others are forming human chains to get to dry ground. Tonight, half of the country is declared a state of emergency. Officials say this is the worst flooding in Peru in nearly 2 decades, with much more rain still expected.
آمبولانس ماشینه.
started taking everything up. My trash cans were flying everywhere. My tent was flying everywhere. I was kind of hanging on it, like almost like a monkey in a sense, trying to hold everything down.
There is one video taken by Louisiana resident Danny Garceau on April the 1st. The video has garnered a great deal of attention. I would say that this is one of the most convincing captures of the star system that I have analyzed over the years. The brown dwarf in a very rare appearance as it orbits our sun in retrograde fashion. And there was also a series of images taken on March 16th and 17th, which are equally incredible, showing the presence of a celestial body. These images are posted on our Facebook page and can be viewed close up. And be sure to follow our page for daily updates on the Planet X Nibiru system. Leave a comment or a message, and as a source to share your images and videos.
4th, Tuesday, 9 o'clock Mountain Time, 2017. What we're looking at is the Gulf of Mexico rainbow loop is what they call this. And you can still see a persistent disturbance down here in the Florida Panhandle. It's slowly moved across Louisiana, southern Mississippi, Alabama, and it's been hitting Florida and Georgia the past couple of days. And it was so intense in Georgia yesterday that they've gone ahead and declared ahead of tomorrow's storms, because it's predicted to cause a lot of damage and destruction in southwestern Georgia tomorrow, that they've declared a state of emergency right here in Albany, or actually south of Albany, in Dougherty County. A full-blown state of emergency in Dougherty County ahead of the severe weather, and it hasn't even happened yet. And it's because the weather that they got yesterday was so bad, so strong, so intense, that they're not taking any chances. Here's what the local news had to say about it right here. And you can see the maps of what they're predicting for tomorrow. They are in a moderate to high tornado path right through here, and Albany's right in the middle of it. Check it out. Here's what they've got to say.
State of emergency has been declared for Dougherty County ahead of tomorrow's storm.
The National Weather Service shows Dougherty County could possibly see strong, long-track tornadoes with destructive wind gusts as high as 70 miles per hour. Now, these weather events could happen throughout the day tomorrow.
And we want to tell you more on the details on what exactly a disaster declaration means. Number one, the county emergency operations plans will be activated. Number two, the emergency operations ordinances that Dougherty County commissioners adopted will be operative.
It's getting just off the charts. Everywhere you look around the globe, there's some sort of wild weather going on. If it's not giant hail, it's strong winds, straight line winds, dust storms, tornadoes, floods, landslides, mudslides. It just goes on and on and on, and it doesn't stop. It only seems to intensify. So there's already a state of emergency in place in Dougherty County, which is south of Albany, Georgia, right here, for tomorrow, and the storms haven't even hit yet, but they're brewing. And they know it. And based off of what it did yesterday, they're not taking any chances.
Another sign that this is in play. Record snow, blizzards, Newfoundland, eastern Canada, getting over 120 centimeters of snow. And for those of you in the U.S., 2.5 centimeters equals 1 inch. A couple images for you here. Snow up to the rooftops of homes. Now in Canada, when it's reported in the news as an unbelievable amount of snow, and this is in Gander, which also had record snows 2 years ago. Seems to be a trend in that area. Here's the actual depth of some of the snow on top of the cars. And all of you hearing about the melting sea ice. Oh, it's going to melt in and we'll use all the Northwest Passage. And it's definitely disappearing, the sea ice, or so you've been told. Atlantic Ferry, stuck in sea ice off Cape Breton. This off the IceAgeNow.info newsfeed. Nova Scotia Ferry, stuck. They're not really sure when they can get it out. They're sending an icebreaker right now to try to escort it out of this slush pack ice. Image here for you of the escort ship trying to break it free right now and cut a channel through there. Cape Breton here on the map for you, far eastern Maritimes. Bit north of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Satellite image for you here. If truly all the sea ice was melting, you think further south latitudes would be the first place that it would disappear, not in the Arctic Circle, which they keep claiming. How can there be so much sea ice this far south if all the ice is disappearing in the north? How can there still be ice further south? This is just simple, commonsensical stuff.
Saw that. Oh! Where are my safety glasses? God. Damn, those came out of nowhere. That sucker that got me. Big Daddy. Well guys, got 3 tornadoes today. It's a beautiful lightning and destroyed another window with hail, but more important news, we lost 3 storm chasers today. Kelly Williamson, Randy, the storm wranglers, were in an accident with another storm chaser named Corbin from Arizona, I believe. I didn't know him, but Kelly and I were friends, and we used to hang out and underneath the storms and talk about everything except the storms. I remember being in New Mexico with him last year, and we were looking for arrowheads and didn't find any, but we talked about getting barbecue and beer all the times, but we kept missing each other. Just last 2 days ago in Oklahoma, he and I got to hang out for a good 20-30 minutes before getting all the funnel clouds, and he was a hard worker, and he was a good storm chaser. He was just a good old boy, down-to-earth guy, and that's what made the Storm Wranglers TV show so good, and I'll miss him. And my deepest condolences go out to the families of all of them. Yeah, so I don't know what else to say, but rest in peace, guys.